So module 8, this is antivirus software, and the main product that we'll be looking at is Windows Defender, which is part of Windows 10 and will carry out most of the defense mechanisms that you're going to need. One thing that has to be said at this point is that there is no such thing as a 100% defense against attacks by external forces, and much of it is due to the action of the person controlling the computer. So there will be some leaders of advice on this, but it really does depend on the way that you manage your computer and how you use the tools at your disposal. So email is one significant way of delivering viruses into your computer, and both Outlook and Gmail have a function in them which auto detects emails which they regard as junk or dangerous and puts them into a special folder, and I'll show you where to find those. As far as Outlook is concerned, then it will go into junk, and you may find that this is an email that you wanted. So have a look at who is sending you emails which are going into junk, try and find out the reason for it, and then you can set them in Outlook and in Gmail, come to that they are not junk and should go into your inbox like any other email that you want to receive. Gmail puts theirs into a separate box, and you can only see that on the web browser version of Gmail rather than the one that you take into your inbox on Microsoft Outlook, and I'll show you where to find those too. Then there are other versions of antivirus software. There is AVG, which there is a paid version of that, or also a free version. You get the first 28 days for free anyway, but if you try and unsubscribe, then AVG will offer you the free version. And same with Avast. The free version is one which you get after you've used up the full version running on a 28-day system. Most of the others will need payment of some kind, and there are others which will protect websites, and websites that you go to usually show a flag that they are covered by a particular defense mechanism like McAfee's antivirus products. And then we'll finish off this module with a further discussion about passwords, more as a reminder than of anything else. So the way into Windows Defender is off the Start button, go to the gear wheel, go to Settings, select Update and Security, and then we've got on the left hand menu Windows Security, and these are the areas that are covered, and we can then click on the link that says Open Windows Defender Security Center, which is where we're at. And on this particular machine there are 6 different areas, all with nice green ticks, which means that they are in place and are doing their work to keep your system protected from outside influences. So in the Defender Security Center, down the left hand side there's the home icon. There is the one which allows you to scan your system, which we'll have a look at in a moment. There is one which is account protection for you as a login to the Microsoft system. There is one looking at firewalls and network protection, which we'll look at in a bit more detail. There is then the apps and files that you've got and how you can protect those. Then there is the device security. There is then followed up the health report on your system device performance and health, and then one to protect the family with parental controls. So let's go back to home and have a look at virus and threat protection. And this is the threat of files and folders on your system. And the first one that is the number of files that have been scanned. This has been a fairly recent scan on my system, but you can then select scan now, and it will then go ahead and do another thorough check on the files and folders on your system. And this is done relatively quickly, but there is an automated system in place, which means that you don't have to run this manually. You can choose to run it if you think there is a particular threat. So we'll cancel and we'll come out of that. Virus and threat protection settings, we can select that. Real-time protection is on, cloud delivered protection is on, automatic sample submission is on. There is a controlled folder access where you can actually stop unauthorized changes being made by putting a control on it. And there are also some exclusions. There may be some items that you do not want to exclude from being threatened. If you're running a particular piece of software that was looking to collect viruses, then that would be a candidate for that. But for most normal use, then you would leave that in place. And then notification settings to let you know what it is that's going on. Account protection then allows you to manage your login email. You can have a look at your account information and how you can set up two-factor authentication on that. You can manage your sign-in options. You can replace your password with a PIN number. And then there is dynamic lock. That's what happens to your PC. If you leave it alone for a while, then it will come and it will set a screen which needs a password to gain access back to the system. So let's have a look at firewall and network protection. Now, firewall is a defense against network traffic from the internet. When you're connected to the internet, then the internet is connected to you. And most home routers, and we'll talk about those in a later module, a router is the device that connects you to the internet, and that allows traffic both in and out. So that if you download a file from the internet, then it comes through the router into your system. If you connect to a website going out, then that's traffic going out through the router. And what the firewall does is protects you against unauthorized access from the internet to your system. And you can see from the list here that the domain network is on, the private network, the firewall is on, the public network is on. And you can then make settings to this. I would strongly recommend that what you do is you leave it as the default settings, and these are satisfactory in the vast majority of cases. There's then the application and browser control, and this is when, if you try and run an application that is installing new software on your system, you will get a warning. And that is because there are programs out there which can be installed automatically. And if that wasn't something which you've invited, then the Windows 10 security system will give you a warning. And if you're downloading something that you know you want to install, then you have the question anyway. You can either say yes, install it, or no, don't. But if it's something which you hadn't invited or you're not certain about, then you can say no, and then that will prevent it being installed on your system, which is a layer of security, so that you will always get that whenever you try to install a new program on your system. Microsoft Edge, we can slide over that because we're planning not to use Microsoft Edge on our system. And then there are the same thing for the Microsoft Store apps, and exploitation, which is a way of protecting your device against attacks from the outside. So if we then go for device security, then this is security that's built into the device that you're running, and again I would strongly recommend that you leave the defaults in place for that. Finally there is a health report, and this is saying that there's no issues with any of the hardware running on this particular computer. Storage is fine, device drivers are up to date, the battery life is fine, apps and software are okay. Any warnings in there, and then you would get some red cross marks in there, which means that there's something that you will have to deal with. And then finally there are the family options. So if you want to put parental controls onto your system, then this is where you would go to do it. And that's pretty much a review of Windows Security Center. And there is one feature of Windows Defender that you should be aware of, and that is that you can take any file or folder in Microsoft Explorer, and if you do right click on this file called Recipe Book, then one of the options is I can scan that file with Windows Defender, and it comes up and says one file is scanned, and it's okay. So any file or folder on the system, you can check that out. So any file that you downloaded onto your system, before you install anything, you can actually check it out by right clicking on it, select check with Windows Defender, and it will tell you whether it is clear of viruses or not. And just to cover the point I was making about junk email, this is my Microsoft Outlook, part of Office 365, and you can see that emails coming to my email address either go into the inbox or they are identified as being junk. And this actual one isn't junk, but I put it there just to show you what it looks like, and I can then either move it back into the inbox or I can delete it, and deleting it goes away and it's there for keeps. If I look at the Gmail account that I was running, which is this one, then there is no junk folder as part of this. So installing a Gmail account on Microsoft Outlook hasn't identified a junk email folder, but it's there if we have a look at the web version of that. So we'll do that now. So here is the Google home screen, and I'm logged in as my new Gmail account, and if I select Gmail, then it goes off and finds the Gmail, and that's typically the way that you will do it unless you're running Microsoft Outlook, which brings everything together on your system. But these are the emails that I've received, not many of them, but if I find more on the left hand menu and scroll down, then you will see that I've got a folder called spam, and there's this little celebration from Google that there is no spam here, but if there were spam and Google identified it as spam, then they would put it into this folder. And sometimes people will send you emails and that's where they end up, so that's the place to look. It may be nothing sinister about that, it just may be that it's been redirected, there may be too many links in it, there may be a strange to box, or the title may not fit, or there may be something else in it which has raised the flags of alarm with Google, and so they put it into the spam folder. And when you've been using email for a few years, then you'll be no shortage of spam, and you can go and have a look, and it'll be full of viruses and lousy messages and any number of things which are not wanted, but you just need to know where it is, because there's just a chance that something may have gone into spam folder that you need. And we mentioned at the top of this module that there are a couple of proprietary antivirus software packages that you can use for free. One is AVG, and you have a free download, and I think you have to put your credit card details in, but if you unsubscribe at the end of the free period, then it will offer you the free AVG coverage for your system, and will then download the virus updates so that your AVG package is up to date. And the other one that I mentioned was Avast, so that's another free download that you can get, and it works in pretty much the same way as the one for AVG. And really you don't need both or either or anything in addition to Windows 10. So stick with Windows 10 because it's part of the system, and that gets automatically updated anyway by just being on your system. And then we have some advice on passwords, and this comes from cyberaware.gov.uk. This is the UK government, about strong passwords, and cyber criminals can use your email to access many of your personal accounts, leaving you vulnerable to identity theft. And the reason that email is issued to many of your accounts is that it is identified as you, because no one can have the same email as you. There is no duplication of email, but email has to be backed up with a strong password. So that's why this warning is there. So you can have a strong separate password for your email. So the one that you use to log into Windows 10, that email, you should have a separate one that you're using for other uses, which may include any of the online shopping sites that you may choose to use, and we'll talk about that when we get on to online shopping. So you can choose 3 random words to create a strong password. You can be creative. It really should be memorable. And here is an example that cybercriminal, they're very smart and they know the simple substitutions. So some of the ones that we've used is using letter 5 instead of S's, or dollar signs instead of S's. Now that is one way which is easy to guess, but then you can always change your password. So never use the following personal details. That's your partner's name, children's name, other family member's name, pet's name, place of birth, favourite holiday, something related to your favourite sports team. And where it's available, use 2-factor authentication. And we set that up on our Gmail account, and we were still able to insert that into Microsoft Outlook. So 2-factor authentication gives you that extra layer of security, and it may mean involving your mobile phone, and then you get a text message saying, here's your code number, put that onto the website, and you've then got access to the feature that you're looking for. So to finalize this module on antivirus, we have looked at Windows Defender and the features that are built in, which is free with Windows 10. We've had a look at Outlook and Gmail and the way that they can put emails into junk folders where you can either delete or retrieve them. We had a look at AVG and Avast, which have both got free versions within them, and then the rest of them pretty much all need payment of one sort or another. So if you've got Windows 10, you can live with Windows Defender. And then finally there was a message on passwords and the need to deal with passwords in a very responsible manner. So that's it for Module 8, and look forward to seeing you in Module 9.